Hello everyone, and in this video we're going to make a quick update on the MMTLP situation. So, regarding the whole thing going on, let's just reiterate what happened briefly before. Chances are if you're here, is because you have a stake in it or you had a stake in it and you want to see what's going to happen. So MMTLP was one of the more shorted stocks on the market, and at one point people were saying that there's going to be a massive short squeeze, and we're gonna be gazillionaires. But suddenly, FINRA has decided that the stock is going to be stopped trading, and essentially the people who were supposed to recover their shorts, apparently they still haven't done so. And this is where like a lot of people were frustrated. They were saying that FINRA is very dodgy and so on and so forth. Before we go further, I also want to say that this is also one of the reasons why many people would prefer not to trade the OTC, because the OTCs are overlooked by FINRA, whereas the other ones, they're looked by other agencies. I'm not saying that they're less crooked. I'm just saying that, at least we know for sure that FINRA kind of is not exactly on the up and up. So basically there is now a lawsuit or an attempt lawsuit between, members of the society, apparently led by a person called Rosa, and against FINRA. So FINRA tries to play it down in court. They say that it doesn't really warrant the lawsuit, it doesn't benefit shareholders and the market at large, to criticize FINRA's decision that, in other words, whatever they did it with a level-head decision. They did it with good faith. They didn't do it to protect anyone or to save anyone's bottom line, outright. So in response to this, the answers were quite simple and straightforward. Basically, there is an outline saying that FINRA didn't provide enough time and enough details to shareholders to clearly convey the idea that MMTLP would stop trading, and that this lack of transparency caused a lot of confusion and frustration, not to mention protected large like sums of money for the short sellers by not having to recover the short orders from like the recoveries. And I want to add, it prevented the short sellers to recover at a very high price. That's the main thing. And we still don't know whether they're going to do it at some point. Right now, there's a lot of confusions and unknown in this, and in that sense, it shows that FINRA did this at least with a lack of considerations for all the stakeholders. So, in my opinion, FINRA's arguments are very weak and flimsy at best. They try to flee away from the responsibility and to avoid the criticism for the lack of objectivity, and they also seem to try to want to play the thing down. They're not the only ones, by the way. Recently, I've also seen some screenshots of people emailing the SEC, because SEC ultimately overlooks FINRA, right? So SEC responded saying, basically, FINRA is handling it, and we're just gonna let it do the job. It's not exactly acceptable in my views, and I think that this kind of proves the point that brokers, institutions, exchanges, and regulators, they often have very similar stakes in the game. And I remember some people asked me, so basically, are you suggesting that the market is just a big lie? Well, it sometimes is. It sometimes is. I mean, productivity hasn't really increased over the past 15 years, but we have seen a huge boost in asset prices. What does it say about the state of the economy, right? What does it say about the distance between the true state of the economy and the perceived state of the economy? Every single month or every quarter, we see the number of people on the jobless list going down because they're simply removed from that list. It doesn't mean that they have activities, and it also doesn't mean that they have any gainful employments. Like, how many of those jobs are just Walmart greeters and burger flippers, right? So yes, I think that the system has huge issues, and I think that some overall major reckoning is not impossible. Like as long as the whole situation regarding wealth inequality remains, this kind of possibility cannot be ruled out, I would say. So, of course, this I went off on a tangent, but basically, yes, people who say that the whole market seems to be off the rails, they're right, and it's been off the rails for some time now, But if you want to participate in the market, then you would still have to deal with a number of players, finra being one of them. And it's actually a pretty big one too, because for people who trade penny stocks, well, penny stocks are usually OTC and they are overlooked and regulated by finra. Now, what I would recommend in this current situation is to keep supporting any sort of campaigns, class action lawsuits, and protests, either online or offline regarding this issue. It's probably going to be mostly online. Okay, first of all, due to the weather, and second of all, due to some unnecessary exposure, I want to say, in the public. So I would say that this whole issue might be something that the general population would watch with some popcorns. They're not going to understand and or care about the significance of this. It's a bit like way back when people were, doing the first major short squeezes, AMC and GMEs. A lot of people were not really interested in knowing what's going on. They were just hyped up by the fact that there is a lot of activities in one area, and they want to watch a show made from it on Netflix. That's it. But nevertheless, I would say that going forward, we need to be more vigilant about short squeezes and the potential of short squeezes. Like whenever we see a company that's doing poorly and very shorted, we shouldn't assume that the writing is on a wall, that if people just pile in, things are going to go well. This kind of logic would work maybe 2 years ago. At this point, I think that the game has changed. So, are we going to get our money back? I think that we might. We might at least get a few, like dozens of cents on the dollar if there is an off-court settlement. But if we don't get this, then what we're going to get might be just like a symbolic win and some changes in regulations, which are also, excellent news. But let's just say that the money that we have put into MMTLP, it might have been lost. Okay. In my previous videos, I have mentioned, like when MMTLP was still trading, I have mentioned that for a safety, we should control the exposure at around 1% of the portfolio. It is exactly for this kind of stuff. I haven't imagined that's going to be that blatant, of course, but you should always assume that this kind of stock, they're not known for the stability and safety. So this is why we cannot just YOLO in, because you only live once. But see, the thing is, life continues after the large positions being dumped or being wrecked apart by unforeseeable forces. Okay. So yeah, I would recommend people to keep following on social media about the movements regarding MMTLP and FINRA, and to continue putting pressure on the regulators, because this is far from over, and it's going to be an uphill battle, to say the least, to seek some justice for MMTLP shareholders.